Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of New York MBA President Mike Colber, our Executive Director Joe Colber, and our entire New York MBA Board, thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Elizabeth Cheney, and I am proud to serve on New York MBA's Education Committee alongside my co-chair, Bill Kennedy. Before we dive into today's program, I'd like to quickly highlight some exciting educational opportunities we have coming up this month. We have our Affordable Friday series on May 16th with Sue Kottner, Executive Director at Affordable Housing, discussing the benefits of financing energy-efficient items to reduce monthly utility costs. And we have Jackie Garazalik with her 10 on Tech series on May 27th. Now, before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. If you experience any technical issues during the webinar, please notify us using the chat function. All participant lines are muted except for our presenters. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the session using the chat or Q&A functions. We'll address as many questions as possible during the Q&A portion at the end. After the webinar, we'll share the presentation slides and relevant resources with you. Stay connected with the New York MBA. You can find us on LinkedIn at newyorkmba.org and on our YouTube channel at New York Mortgage Bankers Association, where we'll post this webinar and recordings like this one. Lastly, I urge all mortgage professionals to consider joining Mortgage Action Alliance. It's free, easy, and a fantastic way to stay informed of legislative issues that affect our industry. And now I'll turn the webinar over to Joe, who's going to do our introductions of our esteemed panel.
Hey, thank you very much, Liz. Appreciate that. And before I do that, it's a great point that you just made about the Mortgage Action Alliance, MA, right? That is going to be launching next week. All week long is going to be the national campaign for all of our members and companies to sign up. It's free. We're going to be sending you out information. We'll have our kind of kickoff announcement that you'll see coming from us either tomorrow or Friday. And then additional ones Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week. And we've got information that we're going to be sharing, data about MA and how everybody can sign up, how you can then take that information, go back to your company and try to get more of your employees signed up to become MA members. It's very simple. It's very quick. As we said, it's free and it's easy. But what it does, it helps us build a larger team. And I think, Teresa, right now, there's over 75,000 MA members across the United States. And, we want to continue to increase that, increase our MA members in New York as well. So it's all about advocacy. It's all about promoting what we do and how we do it. So more to come on that. So thank you, Liz, for, kind of reminding everybody to keep an eye out for that. So here we are today, right? This is, as you see on the slide there, the CMB designation. We're kind of focusing on it a little bit with our team members here from New York. But as you'll hear, this is a designation that the National MBA offers. And Teresa's going to kind of guide us and walk us through that whole process as we kick this off here. But what we've seen and I've seen over the years in this business, this designation is just really, really a spectacular one for individuals that really want to continue to grow in this business, to elevate what they do, and to be able to become mentors to many, many others in this business and guide them along this path as well. So how we're going to do it here, I'm going to first introduce Teresa, as you can see, from the National MBA. So let me just spend a minute on that. Teresa is a seasoned mortgage professional. She has over 30 years experience in the mortgage banking industry. She began her career, as many of us have done, as a loan officer, right? And then kind of moving along that path as a producing sales manager. She then transitioned over on the operations side, became an underwriter, then became a DE underwriter, which are, just wonderful designations for those in the government business. She has extensive experience in government loan auditing as well as a trainer. And then when she moved into the MBA, she developed government loan program guides. She's helped the team as well with NMLS licensing materials. And then she's also, since she joined the MBA, part of their compliance team. She's worked at a local mortgage banker. And in the current role that she has, which at the MBA, all of you guys wear multiple hats, right? You all have one kind of single identity, but you all get involved in all the many different facets of what's offered through the National MBA. But today you're here to talk to us a lot about developing initiatives for mortgage professionals and how they can start this road to this career defining achievement. So we're going to have Teresa kind of kick us off here in a minute. As you see, joining us as well at the bottom of the screen, Michael Pulver. Mike is our current president as well of the National MBA. Mike currently serves as senior vice president. He's director of business development at Genesee Regional Bank, or GRB is how they are monikered, based out in Rochester, New York. Since 1998, Mike has served in various capacities as a loan originator, moving into the sales management roles, working with hundreds of LOs. Many of you know him from his work years ago at Fleet, then through Citizens, through Wells Fargo, Cole Taylor Mortgage, and then his current role here with the folks at CMB. Mike, as I said, earned his CMB designation, and he's going to tell us all about that back in 2021. Then at the top of the screen there, Dave Stagnetti. Dave is joining us as well. In 2023, Dave became the vice president of retail sales at Homestead Funding. Dave's based in Albany, New York, but as you know, he travels all throughout the whole Northeast. We were just talking about a new office down in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which I think is pretty awesome with the growth of Homestead Funding over the years. Many of you know Dave from his other entities that he's worked with. He's got over 3 decades of experience, even going back when he was president and founder of Advantage Mortgage Services. He held that role until 2010 and then made that transition, as many people do, into different areas of the mortgage banking world. Many of you know him from his years with GE Mortgage Insurance, which is now Enact MI. And then Dave early on earned his designation as a CMB back in 2016. So with that, a little bit of background, we're going to go down this journey, but we're going to kind of kick it off here and ask Therese to just kind of take it from the higher level. So we want to just give everybody a little bit more of an education on what the CMB designation is, the MBA's role in this, and then we'll kind of tear it down and talk about it to a low level here in New York and how anyone that's listening could achieve this designation as well. So with that, Therese, please, we'll take it over.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And I'm using the word seasoned as a mortgage professional. That's the kind word, right?
Yes.
So I appreciate that. And I'm grateful to be here to share this information with everyone. Really excited to be a part of this team. As you had mentioned, Joe, there's a lot of information that the MBA has out there. Encourage everyone to take a look at just our website in general to find out what's available to you via the certification and designation path through educational offerings. The Certified Mortgage Bankers designation is the kind of the pinnacle of designations in our industry, and it's certainly attainable by all mortgage professionals. It's going to take a little bit of work, which Mike and Dave will attest to and share with you in just a bit, but it's definitely attainable. And I like what you pointed out, Joe, about paying it forward, bringing our industry to that next level through this professional designation, because it's not just about the initials. It's really about giving back to the industry and sharing that knowledge and making sure that we're doing the right thing. So again, it stands for professional excellence, and I couldn't say it any better than what you're seeing here on screen. So I'll move on just to kind of give you a little bit of history of where this and how this all started. So the CMB designation was established in 1973 by the Mortgage Bankers Association. It is looked at as a highly esteemed designation and kind of certifies your accomplishments in the industry. It does separate or put you apart, but I think it also helps you bring people together to share the knowledge that you have and again, paying it forward. Earning your designation is certainly a credible part of your history in the industry, and it lends to the fact that you do know what you're talking about when you're sitting in a room discussing mortgage information. So that's really what the CMB society is all about, is just being able to support the industry, support the Mortgage Bankers Association, right? You're representing the MBA when you're out there holding that designation. So that's, again, a key part or key component of ensuring that the CMBs are out there sharing what the MBA supports, advocating for what we do. So who can become a CMB? Really anyone. You do have to be in the industry. Again, we'll use the word seasoned. 10 or more years experience is what's required. A couple of the steps in the application process does require a letter of recommendation from a senior level employee at the organization that you're with. And it's more for supporting your journey. That's the way I look at the letter of recommendation. It's your cheerleader telling us, the MBA, that you're going to make a great CMB and why, and just recognizing the commitment that you're making and supporting you along that journey. The application also includes a reference for 2 professional references, so they can also kind of chime in on what a great person you are and how you're going to support the industry. And there is an application available online. I do meet with the candidates, and I also have a PDF version. So depending on which you prefer, you can use the application that's available on our website or chat with me, and I can send you a PDF version of it. That's kind of the method that I prefer, and we'll kind of get into that here, the process. So the points basis is where we'll determine whether you're eligible to move forward or take those next steps. There's, again, great information on our website, but I prefer one-on-one meeting. And I don't believe Dave and I had that opportunity because I wasn't here at the time Dave earned his CMB, but Mike and I did. And what I do is I kind of do like a conversation interview type setting. We meet via Zoom. We discuss how the points are broken down, which bucket is required to meet minimum standards for that eligibility requirement. So under the professional experience, we ask that you have at least 50 points in order to determine eligibility. Education, 35 points, and industry participation, 25 points. And you add those up together, and obviously that doesn't equal the 150 that we're looking for. So we're going to lean into other areas of your career to help build those 150 points. Most cases are folks with the professional experiences where the 50 points are exceeded, and that's where the total 150 come into play. But I don't leave that up to the candidate. That's up to me. You're going to share your information with me via a resume. I'll pull in a professional transcript that we host here on our site at the MBA, National MBA site. And between those 2 documents and your application, I'll do the calculation of the points. So what I think is, again, really helpful is just to sit down with me at this time. We do have other folks that behind the scenes that help as well, but we conduct an interview, go through the steps, and then you'll return the application with this information to help me build that outline and ultimately a profile for you. So we're going to help you prepare for the written and oral exam. You will be asked to select a sponsor, and I can help with working with you on that. We have so many CMBs that have raised their hand to help with the sponsor role. Real important role, critical to the steps of moving forward. I jokingly say they have to hold your hand through the process, but there's absolutely some truth to that because they need to meet with you on a regular basis, build study material with you as well, and ultimately help you with the final steps of the oral exam through a mock oral process. And we'll, again, we get into that kind of conversation when we meet. Set the written exam date. So you'll go through a prep course that helps you, again, prepare for sitting for the written exam, gives you an outline of study material. We don't have a book. I'm going to keep it honest here. There's not a book that we're going to say, here, read this, and you're going to know everything about the CMB program and the mortgage, constructing a mortgage and the loan manufacturing process. It's going to be between your sponsor, your industry experience, and the folks that you meet on your journey in your course, and build a study team to help kind of manufacture the study material. You set your written exam date with me. We have a calendar that we keep. And then once you pass that oral exam, you'll go to the final step, which is the oral exam, kind of like how we're sitting here. It's a venue on, in most cases, Zoom. There's three panelists, three CMBs, and we conduct a conversation. And I say we, I kind of sit in the background there. It's you and the three CMBs. We'll have a conversation about industry related topics. Once you complete that conversation, you'll know right then and there you'll be a CMB. Graduation is held as just a ceremony for us to celebrate your accomplishment. We do it every year at our annual convention. This year coming up, it's in Las Vegas. So our candidates from throughout the year who've passed their oral exam, passed their written exam, will be recognized at our annual convention. That's how that is kind of laid out, or the steps that go into earning the CMB. So some of the education points we've highlighted here on screen, it shows that you can use the AMP designation or any of our designation to help towards your education points. All totaled, again, that's going to be up to me, but part of the education process through the MBA will help you earn your CMB by completing several of these certifications and designations. So a couple questions that we get from time to time. I don't understand the process. I don't think I will qualify. No one to help me. I don't have a sponsor. How do I get started? I don't have time. It's too hard. All of those things swirling around. It's really not that. I don't want to diminish the process because it's definitely involved and a commitment is required. But there is so much support, not only from within the society itself, but here at the MBA. So we can help, absolutely. I will have my contact information up on the screen shortly. Reach out to me when you're ready, and we'll go through what it takes to start this journey. The process is not that complicated, but it's an application process, and we're all familiar with that, right? We know what application processes are, so we need to follow those types of documentation and application requirements, but it's not as daunting as you might think. If you don't think you qualify at this time, you will never know until we find out. So you'll need to meet with me and we'll get that information put together to determine if you don't qualify, how can you, right? What do you need to do in order to get to that point? So all of those concerns, like I said, we can help. I'll help hopefully you'll get a good takeaway from here that it's not as difficult or as challenging as you might think. So the designation itself, again, demonstrates you as being a part of an industry leaders and the support that you can offer to your peers, your colleagues, and moving again forward in the right direction. We have several programs available at the MBA that will do just that for you. And we've talked a lot about the CMB, but we have the Residential Certified Mortgage Servicer. If servicing is more in your wheelhouse, same with the commercial side of things. There's the CRA, the Chartered Realty Investor. That's actually kind of a separate entity, but we work in connection with the group in order to have our candidates earn that designation. There's the Certified Residential Underwriter designation, which a lot of, I'm sure, folks in the underwriting arena have heard about, just again, never have taken the next step. There's 3 different levels for all of these programs that you can earn certificates for, and then ultimately the final designation, and that applies to the Certified Mortgage Compliance designation as well. A couple of these have level 1 and level 2 you can actually test out before earning the final designation, taking the final level. There's certain qualifications that need to be met for that, but I'm here to answer all of those questions and point you in the right direction when you're ready. So I think that's my last slide here. Yep, there's my contact information. We'll keep it up here for just a minute. I know Joe said that he's going to share this with you, and it's available on your New York MBA site as well.
Yes, Teresa, if you wouldn't mind, before we open it up and talk a little bit more with both Dave and Mike here as well, could you go back a couple of slides to where it shows, the point system that you had there?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, maybe a couple of other things, right? So the folks that are attending, there may be somebody that, yeah, I'm a loan originator. I've been originating for 10 years, but I'm not in management. I don't know if that's a direction I want to move in, but I can still do this. I just want to frame it, for everybody to understand that, it's not necessarily only for people at management or a VP level or above, right?
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct with that. Your tenure in the industry, regardless of what role you play, is really what's critical here because as you know, the longer you do this, the more you know, the experience that you have is really what's needed. We were talking a little bit earlier about, giving back to the industry. Your professional experience is going to do just that. So your title doesn't mean anything. It's really your experience and the knowledge that you've gained during that, excuse me, tenure. I'm so sorry, excuse me, just one second. That'll help you earn your designation. So really professional experience, regardless of your role, it's 10 years or more. Education, did you want me to kind of break that down still a little bit further, or was there another question that you?
Yeah, no, I think that's key. And as you said, they would provide you with their resume as well, which will give you a little bit of that background. But the other one I just wanted to have you expand on a little bit is that industry participation, right? So,
Yes.
things that they may not necessarily have documented on their resume, right? But maybe just talk about that a little bit, what you guys look for in terms of their involvement outside of just their day-to-day role.
Absolutely. And so glad that I can get an opportunity here to expand on that. So industry participation, I think, is one of the biggest challenges for most of our candidates because
Yes.
it's the extracurricular stuff, right? It's the stuff that we don't always have time for because we're working and we have family life. So that could be a challenge for many. But what we use for industry participation points, as far as criteria is concerned, would be your involvement here at the New York Mortgage Bankers Association. So just simply being a member of the association earns you the part of the points that you need to, excuse me, count as industry participation. So the longer that you've been involved in your local Mortgage Bankers Association, the more points you'll get. For example, just being part of a member of the association, it's 5 points per year. So if you've been a member for 5 years, there's your 25 points.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And any involvement with committees on the national level. And I so much endorse the commitment and the time for being a part of our national committees, whether it's on the compliance committee or our government loan production committee, tech committees. There's a plethora of committees out there that you can participate in. Same applies, 5 points per year. But I tell people and I share that the points are awesome, right? That's, what we're looking for to earn your CMB, but your involvement in that at that level is way outweighs the number of points that you're going to earn.
Great.
You're on the front lines. We need to hear your voice at the MBA. That's what we do. We advocate for our industry, but it's through us working in the trenches, if you will, that make the changes that are needed. So using committee participation is another way of earning industry participation points. Habitat for Humanity is another way to earn
Great.
participation points. A couple of ideas. I have more to share, but we can talk about more of that on a one-on-one basis when we meet.
Love it. Good. Yeah. No, I just wanted to get people thinking about, all the things you've done in your career up to this point. You may not, as we said, documented all of them,
Right.
because you were on this committee a couple of years ago, or you did some things with Habitat, like you're saying, but go back and start putting that all down
Yeah.
on paper
A-
and build it
a-
up, and you'll see how quickly you can get to this point level.
Absolutely. Attendance at conferences, whether it's through the national MBA or it's through a vendor conference, those all count towards industry participation points. I had a lady come to me that told me she was the president of her Chamber of Commerce. And I'm like, well, help me connect the dots here. I'm not sure how real estate finance and Chamber of Commerce uh, are associated. And she said, well, I host a monthly homebuyer webinar. Like,
Oh,
perfect. Yep,
yes.
exactly. So don't be shy. Share with me what you've done to give
Great.
back to the industry, and I'll help equate it to a point or two.
Love it. Good. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that.
No
All
problem.
right, so we're going to pivot. Let me start first with you there, Mr. Stagnetti. Dave, if you would go back and kind of share with everybody, that light bulb moment that you had that said, wow, CMB, I want to take this on. I want to go down that path. So, what was that whole process for you? How did you get started? How did you pick a mentor? Were you nervous, intimidated? Just kind of share that with everybody here on, how you came to that decision to kind of move down this path and then ultimately to achieve it.
Okay, so thanks, Joe. Thanks, Teresa and Mike and Elizabeth. Probably in 2015, I was actually in Chicago. I remember it well. I was at a dinner with one of our risk managers, Sheila Klosterman. And when we left, we exchanged business cards or something like that. And I saw the CMB after her name and I said, what is this? And she got into it and I said, wow, that sounds like something very interesting. So the next day I actually reached out to Amber Lawrence at the time, who was in the role that Teresa's in. And I just started the process to go through and get the transcript. So that's where during the process, you kind of see where you fit into all those points. And I know, Joe, and that was great that you went back to that slide to look at it, because I had a lot more than I thought I would because of the things that I did with Habitat for
There you go.
Humanity, or sitting on the local MBA boards. All that contributed. So I knew it was definitely something I wanted to do. And then once I realized I was a little bit short on my education points, so I registered for the School of Mortgage Banking too. I went to Washington and I completed that, and then along with the CMB prep course, that got me to where I needed to be from a point perspective. And then I registered for the CMB prep class, which is an absolute necessity for anyone out there that's on this call or thinking about being a CMB, because as Teresa alluded to, there's really no textbook for it. Again, thanks for the nice intro, but when I hear my name and then decades along with it, it makes me feel old. But there really isn't that textbook. So the prep course really was a way to get in. It was a 6-week period where you went through, and each week they went through the 6 sections that ultimately became the course for the exam. And that was crucial for me. So being nervous about the process, certainly, because we all have experience to even get to that point, but most of my experience was on the front end of the business. So I was a little bit lacking on the servicing side. So that was a bigger focus for me. But in the study group, and Teresa alluded to that, we had formed a study group with some great folks who are still very close with today. I know Bob Nemi's on this call. Bob was in my study group and still a very good friend of mine. So we just went through the process together. But yes, it is daunting. I don't want to say it's impossible. I've sponsored 6 people throughout that have now gotten their CMBs. There were a 7 and 8 that are still kind of thinking about it, and just work got in the way and life got in the way. So if you do get into it and think that maybe it's something you want to do, you might change your mind. I'm very interested to hear what Mike has to say about his journey. But for me, I'm one who always likes to learn. I was able to apply a lot of what I learned in my conversations. And if I didn't know something about hedging or about something as far as MSR valuations, I would seek out other people in the industry that I could have those conversations with. And at the time, there were very few CMBs in New York State. So I actually just went on a website and I found someone at PHH named Alex Shreve. And PHH was a customer of mine at the time, when I was with GE. And he agreed to become my sponsor, and I used it also to help me with my business relationships too. So that's kind of my why and how. And 2016, I guess I'm almost on my 10-year anniversary. So
Yeah, you got to be proud of that for sure. Good. Thank you, Dave. And
sure.
I'll come back out because I do want you guys to talk a little bit more about the sponsor and the role that they play, not only helping you, but as you said, Dave, you've now sponsored 6 other people. So we'll chat about that a little bit more. But Mr. Pulver, let's bring you in, and
Sure.
would you please do the same thing? Tell us about what brought you to that point, and then
Sure.
you build up that determination and spoke to your executives and said, hey guys, this is something I want to do. So just kind of give us a little bit of your
Sure.
path.
Well, Dave, first of all, great job. That's I think you just provided everybody on the call with a really great update and kind of the steps and so forth. But my journey really, it started really when I first started in the business. I don't know if you mentioned this, Joe, but I started with a mortgage banking firm called Sibley Mortgage Corporation that was based in Rochester, New York. And my first mentor was a guy named Steve Ashley. And he kind of took a chance on me when I was really, I don't know, 24 years old. And I saw this CMB designation, right after his name. So I just, at that point, I wasn't, obviously didn't have the 10 years. I wasn't ready to do it. But he and I really developed a very close working relationship and a friendship. And I say, someday, I'd like to do that.
Sure.
And he really kind of, helped me really kind of jumpstart my career. So I kind of, glommed onto that. So that's something that I'd like to do. And then Steve actually ended up selling his company to First Federal Savings and Loan, and then First Federal got sold to HSBC, and I stayed on board with all of them. And during that window, I was involved with, the Mortgage Bankers Association from a local perspective, but the CMB wasn't really kind of talked about much, at that point. So I kind of lost, touch with that. And then, fast forward when I came to GRB about 11 years ago, like Dave, most of my, in my experience was in production, managing, LO sales managers, being kind of an executive sales manager, but never really had limited knowledge around the servicing, the secondary marketing, certainly compliance when needed, and really didn't have the real complete skill set. And my job at GRB was one where I was responsible for all of mortgage. And, I would sit in these meetings and, once it started to move into areas outside of my expertise, my knowledge, to be honest, was a little thin. And so from that perspective, I said, listen, if I'm really gonna, take this to where I want to go, I need to beef up my experience. So, you know, dusted off, my desire to do this. And actually, someone, Dave, in your backyard was my sponsor, Mike Curtis. Um,
Yeah.
and I just had known Mike from doing business in and around the capital region. We stayed in touch as friends, would see him at BA events. And so I talked with our CEO, and I said, listen, Phil, this is something that I really want to do. Kind of laid out what was involved and, submitted my paperwork, talked with Teresa, and really kind of, to my surprise, at the time that I put in my application, I'm gonna age myself. I was probably 52. So, it did come back with, it had quite a few points, but was lacking in some areas. So unlike Dave, I actually took School of Mortgage Banking 1, School of Mortgage Banking 2, the prep course. The prep course is intense. It's a lot of work. I can remember studying it for. I remember talking with my wife. I'm like, listen, this is something I really want to do. And when you look at the prep course, Dave, I don't know, but my book was about this big of, section 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's 6 exams that you have to pass. But again, the prep course was great. But one of the things that I would add on to what certainly David shared is the people that were in my study group were people, I mean, like myself, but there were people there that, worked for Fannie Mae, worked for Freddie Mac, worked for HUD. You had people that were in servicing that were looking to learn more secondary. So it really, the friendships and the relationships that I made in that study group, I still have today. And I think for people that, I don't, it is a lot to do. There is a lot of studying, the testing. But for someone that's considering this, it's so worthwhile. The people that I've met, the people that I continue to learn or to meet, is just great. So I certainly, if anybody that's on this call wants to just chat with me, about it, I would be more than happy to do it.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
can just add
Yeah.
to that just a bit
Please.
on, Mike, I think you hit the nail right on the head as far as the networking and the friendships and relationships that you're able to form. To me, is going to be well past your CMB days, right? So they're lifelong friends. They got you to where you are in your CMB journey, but they will remain with you. And I think that is equally as valuable as those initials that you earned. I think the other part to kind of highlight, most folks have not been in a study realm for a while, right? You have been out of school for a bit. Getting your head in that game is a little bit challenging, and you have the support of your study group behind you as well as your sponsor. So don't let that intimidate you. There's a lot of studying to do, and as Dave and Mike mentioned, there's areas of the loan manufacturing process that you might not be the subject matter expert in, but we at the MBA, your sponsor, the other candidates will help pull that information together for you, as well as the folks that you work with, right? Lean into those departments, have them help you study for what they do every day. So there's other resources out there that are available to you that will assist you. So don't let that, again, don't be afraid.
Hey, Teresa, one thing I just want to add, and Dave, I don't know how you and Liz kind of approach this at Homestead, but one of the things that I see here, so at GRB, we have about 55 people in our within the entire mortgage department, and we always kind of end every meeting with, be thirsty for knowledge. And one of the things that I'm finding, I always kid our team, I'm clearly the oldest guy, on the team. And we've hired a lot of younger, people, many of them in their first 3, 4, 5 years, they're in their 20s. So certainly they're not at the stage yet where they could go through this. But I wanted to, I guess, try to be more of a role model for our younger people, that some of the courses that they can take through the MBA, that, that one of the things that if you want to be whatever role you're in, loan officer, processor, underwriter, closer, manager, servicer, that, if you've taken the time to take, any of these courses that the MBA offers, or you pursue any type of designation that they have, it's going to go a long way, within your peers, your referral partners, that, you're able to say, what, I take my profession seriously, and I
Exactly.
wanted to learn more because I want to be able to do a great job for you and for your clients. I do think that it can distinguish you, I mean, it's not the end all be all, but it does definitely, I think, separate you from the pack. And I think we're just trying to build a culture of, you never stop learning. And I think that's something that, I'm trying to do here at GRB.
Love it. Appreciate that, Mike. Thanks.
Yep.
So keep talking, and either Dave or Mike, whoever wants to go next, and Teresa, please join as well. But let's just go back to that word sponsor, right? So you need a sponsor to get into the program. You
Right.
are now sponsors yourself. So just talk about both sides of that. When you reached out to your sponsor, you had that conversation. Does your sponsor then, spend a certain amount of time with you? Do they keep track of what you're doing and push you along? Do you then kind of ultimately move from a sponsor to become a mentor to them and their careers, or vice versa? So just kind of share a little pieces of that, if you would. Dave, maybe you want to go
Yeah.
Dave,
first.
maybe you start because you've done it a lot more than I
Yeah.
have.
No, I appreciate it. I think, it's good, Joe, that you knew Curtis and you worked with him and stuff. And
Yes.
in fact, I didn't even know at the time when I was doing it that Mike was, or I would have reached out to Curtis. I've known him for a long time as well, too. But I think it really depends on the individual. I'm pretty sure it's 6 people that I've sponsored that have now gotten their CMB, and one was in Michigan. A lot of them were remote. In fact, Bob Nemi's wife, Melissa, was one of the recent people I had sponsored. So it really comes down to the individual. And I know Mike talked about his book. I had a binder too. Sometimes I see it. I still have the binder, and it gives me anxiety looking at it. But I'm a paper person, so I took the outline that the MBA gave us in our study group. So I did it multifaceted, and I wrote index cards and asked myself questions, and I had a spreadsheet with all the regs. And so just getting ready for that test was daunting. So really, when I'm sponsoring somebody, what I always say is, because again, some of us type A personalities want to get to the end first. And my always suggestion, and really the way I work with the candidates that I've worked with, is take the prep course first. Don't worry about anything else. I'm not showing you any study guides. We're doing nothing else but get through the prep course and take that for what it is. Get involved in one of the study groups throughout the time of the prep course. And not only that, but be active. Don't wait for others to do it, because we certainly had people, Bob can attest to this, in our study group that didn't end up taking it to the finish line because they were just riding on everyone else's coattails. You're going to sit down and take 6 sections of that written exam, and there's no one else in that room but you. So I think be very active in it. And to Mike's point, why not learn? We're all in this industry together.
Right.
Those of us that have been in it for decades, we're still learning new things every day. So really put your all into that studying. And then once you get through that section, after that 6 weeks, I normally say to folks, hey, kind of gather what you have, let me know where you are, and then we'll start to begin section by section, seeing where they are, seeing where your strengths are and your weaknesses. And then what I would do is start to administer some practice written exams. And once we really got through that, and I noticed to see where the feedback was, and we were ready to go, we would work towards scheduling their exam. Once they got through that part of it, we would do their mock oral exam. But I never did the mock oral exams with people that I sponsored until they got through the written. So for me, it was important to take it in steps. And I kind of did it my way, because Alex, great guy, my sponsor, but he had gotten his CMB like 10 years before 2016. So a lot had changed over time. So I really had to rely a lot on myself. And one thing I did too, as part of the study group, not the study group, but the prep courses, there's going to be calls every Friday. And those calls were very impactful. And you can actually take the recordings of those and re-listen to the recordings. So all the way up to the day I was driving to take my written exam at Manfred Real Estate Center in Albany, I would listen back through those and just give myself the mental cues for something that I might have forgotten. So that's really it. And then one thing I'll leave with on this is, with anyone I was sponsoring, if they did have a heavy concentration on the loan production like Mike and I did, I found a lot of people I sponsored did worse on the sections that they did as part of their industry job, because they were studying
Really?
so much harder on the backside. So not
Gotcha.
to neglect it, but again, if someone has any questions, like Mike said, feel free to contact me offline. I'll share my experience. I'm happy to sponsor people. I kind of have a way that I do it, and it worked for me. Not that the individual won't, but I've found that those who have put the time in, I can definitely tell. And with me as a sponsor, I'm very good to give that constructive criticism or have that tough conversation and say, listen, this is not good enough. Go back to the drawing board.
Good.
And let's do it again. And people appreciated that in the long run, because as we're always trying to learn, I think you're always, the better prepared you are, the more comfortable you're going to be. And I don't think you can ever be over prepared, but it's certainly achievable. If someone is on this call and wants to do the work, you know, we could certainly make it happen, Mike or I, or whomever you choose to sponsor yourself together.
Love it. Fantastic. Mike, anything additional to add? What
No,
Dave shared?
Dave did a great job. I mean, I've only at this point sponsored one, and I have two others that I'm going to be working with. And I think, you know, what I would just, you know, would just add that, you know, you know, Dave did a great job of outlining all of that and what's involved and so forth. But I think, Joe, you mentioned, you know, just the ongoing mentorship that does occur. You know, that first slide that Teresa shared, that, you know, there's currently, you know, what I say only, you know, when you think about 600 active CMBs, but when you think about the amount of people that are in the mortgage industry, and Teresa, you probably have a better sense of what that number is than I do, but 600 is pretty small when you think about the total population. So, so it's you know, the friendships, the mentorship, you know, it just, I can't convey enough how awesome that part of this, you know, has been. And I think too, you know, one of the things that I plan on doing, which is really, Joe, isn't part of the question you asked, but is in terms of the giving back, you know, as you know, Joe, you and I involved with, you know, the MBA is partly giving back, but I think moreover than that, just, you know, sitting down and being able to mentor, to potentially teach courses, you know, with and through the MBA is something I know that I look forward to, you know, to doing, you know, at some point. And so that's all that I would add, Joe.
Love it.
Joe, if I
Therese, go
can-
ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to the sponsor's role. I think you both did a great job explaining, but it just kind of from, you know, the outside looking in. One of the things that I encourage the candidate to find someone who's equally as committed, right? As much as they have to offer as a sponsor in your maybe prior relationship with them, their lives are just as busy as yours, but they need to be committed. They are going to walk through this with you. So you want to make sure that they have the time. I think that's really important that when you do finally decide on who your sponsor is going to be, that they've made that commitment with you. The other part of the sponsor's role is just the encouragement that they give to keep moving forward because they've been through it, right? They know what it took to get there. They know that
Yes.
you can do it, or they wouldn't sponsor you if they didn't think that you were able to do it. They will support you with that. It is a little bit daunting. There's material, as both of these gentlemen have mentioned, that you might not have ever even considered reading because it's just not something that you do every day. So your sponsor is going to be there to help fill in those gaps with you as well. Also, they don't need to be your neighbor. You can conduct this type of conversation with them on a weekly or daily basis via Zoom. We have wonderful ways to communicate via technology. So don't worry if they're not sitting, you know, down the road from you. That is absolutely okay. They can be across the country, work with you on a regular basis or routinely in order to get you through it and not be sitting next door. So kind of think about that.
Great. The before we start to wrap it up here, Teresa, just if you would go back, because I know, or I think Mike, you were the one that mentioned it, School of Banking or Mortgage Banking 1, School of Mortgage Banking 2, right? So anybody that was listening, or we share this information with, that maybe only is 5 years into the business or 7 years, they haven't hit that 10-year plateau yet. What are these other courses that they could take and start working on some of the prep and help them move along a little bit quicker once they hit 10 years?
Absolutely. If I were to guess at a percentage, I would say probably 75 to 80% of our CMBs have their AMP designation, which stands for Accredited Mortgage Professional, and that's what you earn when you complete the 3 schools of mortgage banking. So that in itself, once you complete that, it's 70 points under the education criteria. So if you go through the levels 1, 2, and 3 under the schools of mortgage banking. Level 1 is going to kind of give you a foundational approach to mortgage banking, some of the history. There's compliance kind of weaved in there as well, a little bit of technology. Obviously, we need to talk more about technology these days. School 2 is the primary focus there is secondary and capital markets, but there's also some sprinkling in of compliance. We have to have compliance in every area of the loan manufacturing process. So kind of keep that common thread. And then the
Yes.
third, the final level is actually kind of a team building project that you work with other students in your class. And then once you complete that, you'll earn your accredited mortgage professional designation. I think it's a great piece, a great stepping stone, if you will, into the certified mortgage bankers designation. It's not
Right.
required, but
Right.
absolutely going to be very helpful and instrumental in pointing you in the right direction. We actually leverage some of the material from our schools of mortgage banking in the CMB prep course. So you'll kind of have firsthand knowledge of that information. Totally different setting, right? Schools of mortgage banking, you're going to sit in a classroom, or in most cases, or they do it, they do have virtual courses available as well, but you hunker down, you study for those, 5 or 6 days or however many weeks it's spread over when it's done virtually. Different than the CMB prep course. As Dave mentioned, it's 1 hour Friday afternoons that we chat with instructors and fellow candidates, where the AMP or the schools of mortgage banking, you actually sit in a classroom type environment. You do have books that you're going to read through and complete the information in order to pass an exam at every level. So I think it's a great way to structure your path, starting off with the schools of mortgage banking.
Hey, Joe, just
Yeah.
one thing. So one of the things, one of my whys, I was a teacher for the School of Mortgage Banking of School 1 and School 2. So I did that right from the time I got my CMB until COVID hit and it became virtual. And for me, it was more about networking and making it work for my career as well. But you do meet people in those classes that I still see today. People are now that are CMBs that said, hey, Dave, I remember when you were my teacher, or just contacts you made. And a lot of times, whether it was in Texas or DC or California, you just get to spend a lot of time with those. So I highly recommend those classes for anyone out there. And again, if you're looking at this path, I'm not an AMP myself. And sometimes I heard how good School 3 is. If I had to do it again, I probably would. But right now, I don't
Gotcha.
have the capacity for it. But I do highly recommend those, school, SOM 1, 2, and 3, as they refer to them.
Love it. And Therese, if somebody goes to the MBA.org website, what would they search for to start seeing some of this information and the basic criteria that then could trigger them calling you for the conversation?
Absolutely. Designations and certifications probably would be the best keywords to plug in there. And then that'll
Okay.
take you to the page that lists all of those that are available.
Love it. All right, so let's finish up with this then. Again, Dave, Mike, whoever wants to jump in first. You've had this designation. How do you continue to use it in your career? Has it helped you as well? Advancement in your company. Has it helped you when you recruit loan originators, talking to them about it, trying to get them a little more understanding of how really great this business can be over time? So just anything that you can share there in terms of how you've now used your designation. Dave, as you said, when you saw it on that business card, that triggered your first interest. I hope that same thing happens and people mention that to you as well, right?
Yeah, for me, it's been great. It's definitely opened up doors where I can reach out to presidents of companies who might happen to be CMBs. And if it's someone I'm trying to get through a gatekeeper, a lot of times that helps. Mike Pulver and I really don't know each other that well. I respect Mike and know him throughout the business, but I think we probably have a quick connection. I know that Mike's a CMB and we went through the same thing. So that seems very simple, but I think here's an example of two of us on this call together that probably have a great deal of mutual respect for each other just because we've gone through that similar process. So I don't know if I use it on a day-to-day basis, but the knowledge that I learned for sure. And one of the reasons I like to be a sponsor is because it refreshes me, because you remember how daunting it is. And sometimes you neglect to realize what it took to get that pin when you wear it to the conferences and things. So for me, it's a variety of different things, but but back to what Mike said, and I love what he said about at GRB, they're trying to encourage that learn something new. So there's stuff changing all the time. It's so for me, I think it's just a reminder. Yes, it's great to have the designation. It's great to have the contacts like Mike and Bob and other people that I can lean on with a quick phone call. And I mean, LinkedIn, a lot of times people won't give you the time of day, but whenever I see a CMB looking to be a friend of mine, I will look at that differently, or not a friend, but to become a contact,
Sure.
because it just gives it that credibility. So that's kind of it for me.
Love it. Mike, how about you? Anything else on
I
that?
mean, Dave, I think just absolutely nailed it, and it's been great to talk with Dave today. Like we said, we've known of each other for many years. We haven't really had a chance to chat at length, but because of what I know, what he had to go through to earn his CMB, you just have this utmost respect for the time. I think one thing's for me from an internal perspective, working at a bank, working for a CEO, for a board of directors that don't have the residential lending pedigree.
Yeah.
That once I mean, they hired me to be this, production guy. And then as the things grew and I needed to be able to do more. And they really didn't know what this designation, when they started reading through it and kind of what was required, the transcripts, what you needed the exams that you needed to pass. I think that it helped me build stronger relationships with our senior executive team. And then as Dave probably knows, when we have to, submit an application to be approved by a new investor, a correspondent, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and you have to include your resume, people know what that means.
Love it.
So
That's a really great point.
yeah.
Yeah, good. The Elizabeth, do we have any questions or comments or anything that we can share with the group here before we end today in the chat?
I don't have any questions. And I do see, thank you, Bob. He sent over a link that folks can log into to see and get more information, www.mba.org/CMB.
There you go.
That'll
Good.
take you to the CMB page, but the specific or designations that you had mentioned, Joe, as far as the schools of mortgage banking or CRU, just logging into the www.mba.org, and then type in the search feature designations and certifications, you'll see every educational opportunity that's available.
Love it. Thank you. All right. So to finish up, thank you again, Mike. Thank you, Professor Stagnetti. Therese, final comments and words from the National MBA to anybody ready to go down this path?
Well, you have my contact information, so absolutely reach out. I think the biggest thing I hear from CMBs is that they took too long to do this. So don't put it off. You can get through this. This is the right time. You wouldn't be sitting here right now if you weren't interested. So please give me a holler and we'll make it work.
Love it. Great. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. Again, a shout out to Therese. Thank you for joining us from the National MBA. Mike, Dave, for going through it, for being sponsors, and you, as you said, both of you will have conversations with anybody that wants to talk about it a little bit further. Liz, I think we're pretty much good to go here at this stage. Again, folks, check this out. It'll be on our YouTube channel in another week. Share it with other team members in your offices. Let people watch it. It's not a difficult process, but one we encourage you to take. And thank you all for attending today and heading down this path. And we wish you a good day. Next week is the Mortgage Action Alliance campaign, so look out for Ma. Ma's coming.
Thank you for that plug. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
You got it. Yes.
Hey
Thanks,
guys, we'll
everybody.
see you. Thank you all.
Have a great day.